there are a lot of things in this sport that we just neglect to look at that could have a huge growth impact on every single component of the sport if we just looked at it from a different lens and we're willing to be receptive of that change.
Welcome to the SwimStrong, aim to highlight inspiring people doing amazing things in the SwimStrong family and in the greater swim community. All right, we are here with Kyle Sockwell. Super excited to get to talk with him today and all kinds of things that he's doing for the swimming world to move the sport forward. But before we get into the intro, Kyle, we got to do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready to rock. Let's do it.
All right. First one, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Sandlot.
Oh, that was quick. I like that choice.
I just told someone that I think yesterday. So that was top of mind.
How about your celebrity that you would most like to spend a day with?
I think I'd go Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's a new one. I just watched him in Ballers. And I mean, that dude's just done so many different things. I feel like I would just get so much value from spending a day with him. He's been in the WWE. He's done a ton of acting. I think like in 2018 or 19 or something like that, he was the highest paid actor on the planet.
Dang.
But I didn't know a single movie he did that year. It was just volume of roles he played. So I think he'd be a really valuable person to spend a day with. That
would be fun too. Dude's a legend. I imagine that would be a fun day. Who is your favorite cartoon character of all time?
I think I got to go Patrick Star. I was a big SpongeBob guy growing up. I think I knew every single episode, especially the Texas episode. I grew up in Texas. But his character was just always, it was so good.
Fair enough. I love it. How about a hidden talent you have that most people don't know about?
So I was actually really good at the kendama. If you don't know what that is, it's a Japanese skill toy. It's like a ball and cup type situation, but you have a ball with a hole in it, a spike on the top, and then 3 cups. I got into it in middle school and then ended up growing into it. I got recruited by the U.S. national team, which I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. Was really good at it, but now it's kind of like swimming. You look at the things that kids are doing in kendama these days, and I'm like, good Lord. It is, I feel like it's kind of like the 2000 to 2020, the difference in depth of talent and their ability to do certain basic skills at such a crazy level in that sport, if you want to call it that. I don't want to upset any kendama people. I was pretty good at it though.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out. I have not heard of it until you brought that up. So
I wish I had one on me. I don't think I do.
Well, next question would be, what is your walkout song if you could choose it for life?
Ooh, for life? Gasolina by Daddy Yankee.
Oh, it's a good pick.
Yeah, I saw so I was a big baseball guy with Sandlot and all that stuff growing up. And I went to a Round Rock Express game, which is our minor league baseball team, when I was 9, maybe 10 years old. If that song was out by then, maybe you can adjust the age by when it came out for me. If you really want to fact check that deeply. And a guy walked out to the bump, and the gat, or there's a car engine revving in it. And I was just he was tapping his cleats. And I was it's one of my most vivid memories. I was like, this is the one for life, for sure.
I will say, whenever that song gets played on a pool deck anywhere, everybody goes nuts. So it's a pretty good universal walkout song.
Yeah.
All right. Last question I got for you. This is a tough one. If you could pick anyone in all of World Aquatics, so anybody in the professional swimming world, coaching or athletes, if you got to pick 2 people to survive on a deserted island with, who would you go with for the best chance of survival?
Oh, man. Maybe I shouldn't have done these on the fly. That's a tough one. So, I mean, I feel like I need somebody that's going to entertain me to any sort of extent.
For sure.
So I think I'd probably go with, anybody.
I feel like you might bring the entertainment for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a good point, but I don't know if I want to carry the burden the whole time. It depends on how long I'm going to be there. I'd probably go with Josh Pernot just because he's a good friend of mine, and I'd say he's still in the World Aquatic realm. And then because I feel like he's got some sneaky survival capabilities. I think he's relatively capable, and he's a dad now, so I feel like he's starting to to get that stuff going. And then I think I
Yep.
bring Dressel as well, just because he's got his farm. He's got like probably a little bit of heightened survival instincts. I know I went double American. I was trying not to, but
It's good
I don't know.
picks.
I feel like they would be good.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the Dressel on the farm. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
and
feel like he'd know some things.
he could probably also like, survive really well and tear apart some, wild animals if they came at you or things
Yeah,
like
exactly. Exactly. And they're both
that.
dads. So I feel like when that happens, you just start to learn stuff like on the fly, or you might just like download a new software like right away. And you just like know stuff. So I would go double dad. And
That's
yeah, Dressel could
awesome.
probably fend some things off. And unfortunately, if we got into an aquatic escape situation, I would be in a bad spot.
Oh man. Well, you did a great job with the rapid fire questions. Thanks for answering those. So people get to know you a little bit more on a fun level. And now I want people to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level because you have a pretty awesome story. Really unique things that you're doing, moving this sport forward, things that you're passionate about. And I really just want to dive into that. Could you share just a little bit of your swim journey, how you got into the sport in the first place, and then fast forward however much you want to share detail of that, and then fast forward to how you got into doing media and content and promoting the sport. What did that whole journey look like for you?
Yeah, so it started with not wanting to do a race at all. And I had to get bribed with a pack of Pokemon cards when I was a kid. And so I got bribed with one. I always say that I swear that first pack of, I did this in a recent podcast. Hopefully, you still hear me. I think I have it right here.
I'm excited to see what you're pulling up right now.
I've got the original starting 9.
Oh, let's go.
And I've got a Charizard in here. It's base set 2 though. So I don't know. I think that drops the value a good amount.
That's awesome.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, we got more.
I got a Kendama here too. So if you're watching the beginning, so that's it. So you can catch it like here, you can catch it here, you can catch it here, and
That's
then
awesome.
there's a hole in it and you can spike it also.
That's legit.
Yeah, you can just like, so there you go.
Look at that.
Yeah, on the
well
fly.
Done.
But yeah, so one pack of Pokemon cards was all it took. I did it. And then I ended up just swimming summer league. I think it's a pretty typical story. Did summer league, enjoyed it, started club, I think around like 8. Swam high school, did, the typical journey up into probably my freshman year. And then I went out to George Mason. Loved the guys out there. Honestly, it just wasn't my climate. I'm from Texas. I was born in Vermont, cold up there, but came down to Texas, lived here my whole life. We get a little bit of cold, but it's not like prolonged. So I think that was my first experience with like a prolonged winter. And I was like, this isn't for me, man. This isn't for me. And I was lucky enough to have a really good freshman year. I think I went from like 4 minutes in the 400 IM down to like 351 or like 352. So I had a lot of options back then. That was good back then. Now it's like, I don't really even know what that would like do for a college coach right now. They'd probably be like, "Oh, it's good, bud." That would be it. I went like, I think 201 in the 200 breast, 150 in the 2 IM, and then split like 138 or 139 in the 200 free on a relay. So I had a lot of options looking at schools. I took a trip to Wisconsin. I took a trip to Virginia Tech. I took one to second round. I think it might have just been 3 with Arizona State. And then there might've been one more. Took those trips, but when I went to ASU, just being on campus there, I was like, I think this is it. Ended up signing there. And that's kind of where the media journey started. It was not like right away, but when Vine came out, I just created an account and started messing around. So that was back when there wasn't fancy video editing. There wasn't, any of that stuff. And that's where, like, if you guys know Zach King, he's like the guy that does all like the magic with editing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tries to like confuse you with how he does certain edits. And that's where he got his start, because everyone from the audience was looking at, I won't go too deep into this, was looking at like his abilities and like what he was able to do with this platform. And we knew exactly what the app did. You started it, you stopped it, you started it, you stopped it, and you couldn't backtrack initially. You had to go all the way back to the beginning. So the stuff that he was doing was pretty insane. And so I was trying to do the same stuff and like try to, be creative on that platform. And it ended up hitting pretty hard. I had one video that was like when you put fins on, it was like you take just a fragment of a very small subset of what it is to be a swimmer and turn it into some sort of story. It was like just tiny little skits, which I still do some skits, but I call it just like bad content. Bad content. It was in the early days of swimming content. I think we're still in the early days of swimming content. And it was just hitting and it was starting to really catch some steam. I met this guy that I ended up, starting a company with in swimming. And, we made 1,000 mistakes doing that from 19 to 21. But in that, I started really getting deep into Vine. Vine got taken over by Twitter. Twitter kind of stepped on its throat. Twitter started to go from there. And Twitter was really the thing that got me into the swimming media space. There was this guy, I think Michael Gustafsson. I think it was Mikael.
Okay.
He was kind of the guy on Twitter back in the day. He did just like random swimming news, I think, a little bit of like live swimming coverage. And all of a sudden he was just gone one day. I don't know if he hit the lottery and he was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Cause it looks like it's a really fun job, but I mean, there are a ton of people out there with a ton of opinions and they are not afraid to send them your way, especially if their name on whatever social media account they have isn't their real name and their profile picture is of a pair of goggles. Like they will rip you up. Luckily at this point, starting with Twitter, I think was the best thing that ever happened to me because I had to deal with that. Just deal with being comfortable in who I am and knowing that I have this vision that I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing is for certain, hopefully going to accomplish at some point. So this doesn't matter. That person doesn't matter. Grinded it out on Twitter. I think a lot of the people that are seeing the quick success that I'm having right now, and it's kind of, that moment where I've really decided to dig in and, was patient and then was like, all right, we're doing this thing. Let's really turn it up a notch. It's been 10 years of just manual work on Twitter. I didn't have a budget. I've never had a budget for anything. Everything has been bootstrapped. I've dumped a lot of my own money into this. I mean, in the thousands of dollars with little to no return up until very recently, just because I don't know, it's what I chose to do. And then one day out of nowhere, I always wanted to keep Instagram separate. I actually had an old Instagram account that had 15,000 followers or something like that on it a long time ago when that was like, you have a K next to your follower count. Like that's insane. And deleted it one day because it was like, I don't want to say it was fame. It was like I posted like a photo of myself back squatting and a bunch of people came on and were like commenting the peach emoji because my butt was in it. And I was just like, I can't do this. I just deleted it. And I reached out to Instagram like the next day because I was like, why did I do that? I was like, can I get this back? And they were like, because I saw Justin Bieber delete his Instagram account, and then it came back. And they were like, oh, he reached out to Instagram. And I was like, so naive. I was like, hey, can I get mine back? And they were like, no.
Oh, man.
I was like, oh, man. So I just started over. I had to get actually Kyle Sockwell back then. I guess the other Kyle Sockwell that's out there that didn't have the dot changed it randomly.
So you got it.
I just went in there and went to check. Periodically, I would check to see if I could get it back. And I did it one day and it just green check showed up and I was like, let's go. So now I've got the vanity URL or URLs. Didn't really do anything swimming related on Instagram until a couple months ago, really. I think like 3 or 4 months ago, I posted on my story. I had done like a good amount of swimming stuff. Like I would just say like on my story, like, oh, swimming. Yay, this happened, whatever. But wasn't creating swimming content consistently or really at all. It was just like more personal. Posted on my story and I was like, all right, I'm just going to start posting swimming content just as a heads up for the people that follow me for me. Like send me an email or something. Send me a text if you want to hear from me, if you don't want to see this stuff. And I got a bunch of DMs. They're like, oh, you mean like this wasn't swimming content before? And I was like, you guys have no idea. Because I had a queue already of posts. I had committed to this before I said anything, well before I posted and was like, I'm going to start doing swimming content on here. YouTube had just started and was noticing some followers coming in from the YouTube stuff I was doing. I was like, I think it was November or December or something like that. I could be getting my timelines mixed up, but I took a step back from content and slowed everything down. And, luckily USA Swimming was super responsive, and me telling them, hey, like I took a step back. I was starting to feel a little bit burnt out just because I felt like I still had one foot in and one foot out, and decided, look, it's an Olympic year. People are interested in what I'm doing. I'm in a unique spot. Swimming doesn't have this at all. I need to just go. So I still say I have one toe out. I'm not quite both feet in. I got one toe out. I'm still a little bit hesitant. But every day I feel like I can, inch that toe a little bit closer to the other side of the line, put both feet in, and people have just latched on. And so, super appreciative of everything that's starting to happen now. It feels like I'm like proving my 19-year-old self right, that looked at this swimming space and was like, this media landscape is so bare. I always say Swimming World and SwimSwam do a great job of updating everyone on what is going on in this crazy spider web of a sport. People can hate all they want. I don't care. You can hate on me. You can hate on anybody. I think that's your right as a fan or a consumer of, the content that is created. But at the same time, if you ever feel like they are not doing something good for the sport, those entities, imagine what this sport would be like if they didn't exist. There's no one out there that's just using Meet Mobile to say stay updated with what's going on in the sport, because they don't cover every single event, right? You would have to go to Meet Mobile and Swim Cloud, and all these different pieces are important in growing a sport. But I noticed that like there really wasn't a lot of entertainment back then, and it took way longer than I thought it would. But really turning up those knobs is, I think what's the phrase? Like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success or something like that. And I had heard that phrase for a long time. And over the last month, it's really started to feel like that reality is starting to happen. So it's really exciting. I get DMs all the time, and I say, the reason that I do this is for the DM that I get from a 14-year-old that says, hey, I just put out my first YouTube video on my new channel. Can you check it out? And I always say, like, it could be the worst YouTube video I have ever seen, and I will respond to that kid for sure and say, this is awesome. Keep going. Because when I was 19, all I had was not all I had, but the only thing out there was Mikael Gustafsson, who was just tweeting. And that was really it. That was the only like outside form of entertainment from just news. And when that guy went down, I was like, maybe I can fill this void. And people started to latch on. And I wish more than anything he had stuck around, so I could have said, hey, let's do this together. Or he had said, hey, let's do this together. Hey, you can be an intern. Hey, do you want to come on and help me with graphics? The jobs in swimming that are available right now are so lean, especially for when you graduate from the sport. I call it graduate, not retire. Graduate from the sport. They're so lean. You can coach. You can coach, especially 10 years ago, the only option was to coach or maybe do some freelance writing. And maybe it's blind confidence in, this idea that I had when I was 19. I don't think that is the end all be all for the sport. I don't think that has to be our eternal reality. I think there is absolutely things that this sport could do, even if, it involves taking risks, like not making money on a lot of time for 9 years, because you want kids that are excited about swimming right now to be able to make money right when they graduate from the sport when they're 22. Maybe that's it, but I don't know. I think there are a lot of things in this sport that we just neglect to look at that could have a huge growth impact on every single component of the sport if we just looked at it from a different lens and we're willing to be receptive of that change.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing all that. That's an awesome journey. You can tell the passion that you have. I think what you said about people becoming an overnight success, this is a conversation that I have with athletes all the time. I'm like, everybody loves the posts about when someone breaks a national age group record or makes their first like Team USA national junior camp or whatever it is, your first whatever, that everybody sees it. And it's like, oh, wow, that person's just so gifted. They're so talented. And it's like, you have any idea what they did before this post became a reality? And like, I can totally relate to that. Even on the dryland piece of things, that was a vision of ours with SwimStrong, is how do we give swim athletes an all-encompassing dryland program that rivals what like an NFL team would get, or like college football teams, or like high school football programs, like the money-making sports, so to speak. Like, it's like that was that I was like, swimming doesn't have this and it needs it. And like, this is, whether anyone else believed it or not, it was something that I believed passionately and wanted to give to athletes from anywhere, any background, to be the best they could be. And I feel like what you're saying is just, I can really relate to what you're saying. And but I don't think a lot of people can, because very few people have that mindset of like, I'm willing to not make money for 9 years. Like, like most people, they're not going to do that. And they don't, and they love seeing what you're doing now. And it looks so fun because the content you put out is just funny. It's great. It's engaging. What people don't know is all the work that goes in to putting that content out. And I don't think anybody ever will, unless they're doing it or working with you or whatever, and can see the behind the scenes. And the same is true for a swim athlete. The same is true for someone when they get on their first podium at Worlds, in Doha that we just had, and people who got their first medal. Like, that's been a lifelong dream, and they're doing something that everybody wants, but like the amount of times that they failed before they got there. So can you talk a little bit more about why you had a passion for like this? Like you said, I always, since I was younger, you started with like Vine and making videos, even when there wasn't great editing content. Why content? Why like media for the sport of swimming? I know you saw like the need there, and like, it's just so bare. It shouldn't be like that in the swimming world. It's not like that in other sports. But why did you originally have that passion? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's one that I don't fully know. But in just thinking about it, right now, I always liked storytelling. I always wanted to work in some sort of media. And, in college, I majored in sociology just so I could stay eligible, and had a couple moments where I wasn't quite eligible because I was running a company at the same time and doing, the media stuff. And, back then it was, the thing is like I really never had a coach that looked down on what I was doing, which is really interesting. I was super lucky to have coaches that saw it and saw what was happening and was like, all right, like this is kind of cool what's happening. Like, keep going. I was lucky to have Bob as my coach for the last couple of years, and he's still somebody that, is willing to put out a quote into a press release that Arizona State puts out when I win an award. Mm-hmm. And, it's the thing that really got me locked in on trying to figure out something within swimming monetarily was money, flat out money. And not for the reason of like, I want a cool house. There were so few money making opportunities in swimming. I wanted to see if I could create some. And I definitely haven't quite yet. Maybe I've created a little bit more of a diverse landscape of media and swimming, and helped with that, and helped with, the fact that I think there are accounts that have spawned and started to turn into something that could be a real thing in 5 years because they saw me having a little bit of success. And what's happening right now, and being able to sign some contracts and be able to have some people come on and back me, and, have a couple series on YouTube and things that I do on Instagram, and, all of these things start to really take flight, is that I hope that people see that and say, this is possible. It's possible. And hopefully I can then platform some of those people down the line and start to create those layers of media and swimming that I think it's been so desperately needing, that then will all of a sudden start to really create this monster, this machine of media within swimming that creates so many more jobs. Mm-hmm. Right. I looked at Phelps and Lochte and, all of these big names that were making a ton of money on swimming. But then we also had a pro team in Arizona when I was out there, and the gap between second place at the Olympic trials and third was unbelievable. And I just I could not accept that to be the reality of this sport that I swam in, or competed in for so long. And I had to just, I don't know. I just thought that there had to be another way. I just heard so many people, and people still say this all the time. And I think they're just super close-minded, saying swimming is a non-revenue generating sport. When you respond and say, hey, maybe we're not doing things properly, though. Maybe if we take some risks and start to make mistakes and start to learn from those mistakes over time, it absolutely could be. What we have right now is not revenue generating. Absolutely, I agree.
Yep.
We are so subsidized in swimming. It is unbelievable. And we like to turn a blind eye to it. But what we have right now might not be a reality in 5 years, because of the fact that we weren't willing to take risks for so long. And so I looked at that, and I think just saw through what a lot of people weren't willing to look through. There was a wall that they were just allowing themselves to stop at, instead of opening a door that was in the wall that would let you look down into the sport at its core and say, this is an unhealthy situation. And really, it was just, I want, and my whole ethos, which has been, I guess, internal until now. I've told like my buddy, so I swim with Josh every once in a while, Pernod. And I've told him this exact thing, where I was like, I don't think swimming is going to be a healthy sport until the person that almost semifinals, or I mean, almost a finals at Olympic trials, is making a living swimming, not the people in the A final. I want the person that got 9th in a semifinal and didn't make the A final Olympic trials to be able to make a living swimming, not make a ton of money. You don't have to make a ton of money. If that person makes $65,000 a year and can commit full time to swimming professionally, I think we're in a good situation. But right now, we have maybe, just guesstimating in the US, 40 people that are making a living. And I mean, that even could be a high number, maybe 40, maybe 50. And I mean, it's insane. And it's just this thing that I could not get out of my head, was when that was brought up, that people just kind of like nodded at it as if it was just what was going to be the thing. And that it was just how it is. That's just the way that things are. That's swimming. And I was like, that's nonsense. Trying to filter myself just a little bit.
Man, no, I got you. No, even on the side, like, even if you look at like the worst player on a NBA team, sitting the bench, never plays a game, makes more than the best swimmer in the world typically. I mean, that's crazy. And you're talking about a guy who doesn't even see playing time. You got minor league athletes in a system like 3 divisions down that make more money than the top 40 athlete in our sport. And we want to move our sport forward and let, whether it be America or any country, specifically if we talk about USA, like, we want our athletes to be, setting the pace for the rest of the world. And yet they can't even make a living off of the sport unless they're honestly top 10 in the world, like a living, because then you have to think about post swimming. I talked to somebody who was a former Olympian, one of the best in their country, and they're making like nothing now. And it's like, okay, I made some money up till I was about 32. And then when I wasn't, winning medals anymore, now I'm like nothing. And now what do? I just go coach, I guess, and like try and make a living coaching. And but like, there's got to be, like you said, there's got to be so many better ways to do it. If another professional athlete in the United States and some of the bigger sports retires, they're retired. Like, they can just give back to the community. They can mentor the next generation. They can go on ESPN and be a commentator, or CBS or ABC or whatever. You can't just go be a swimming commentator and be like, hey, I'm set. I put in my time. Like, I put in my work through, and now I'm giving back and I'm in a good spot. Like, that just doesn't exist. So I really like what you're saying there, because it's like, why is swimming always given the shaft compared to every other sport? And
it's just a product of a lack of dreaming outside of the pool. We are so willing to put together these huge goals. I mean, I did it too. It's so easy to get a piece of paper out for a 400 IM long course. I remember I presented Bob with my 400 IM long course goals one time. And they were ridiculous. I mean, looking back at it, it was just like obscene. It was such a ridiculous jump to expect with no real plan. But he helped me put together a plan. And then, I didn't do a lot long course. It was towards the end of my career anyway. But it's so easy to say, I want to go 410. We'll call it 410. And the 400 I'm going to go 27, 30, 32, 32, 37, 37, and just go down that. And then just look at it on paper and you're like, yeah,
I can
got it. Right. But and that's okay. We love that. We're like, that's awesome. Huge goal. That's great. That's amazing. The moment we talk business and swimming, if you have a big goal for something, impossible, stupid. Like, why are you trying to do that? Why are you trying to ruffle feathers? And people say that stuff. They say, why are you trying to ruffle feathers? Like, if we get too loud, then, people are going to find out that we're really not making money. We're really not doing this. Like, oh, that's wonderful. I'd rather sit around and wait for someone to find out on their own so that one day we're just all surprised when we can't afford a live stream that we thought we deserved an even better live stream. One of the things that makes no sense to me is that in swimming, we expect beautiful production on live events. The reality is we don't deserve any of that. We deserve an iPhone in the stands, maybe, with somebody plugging in like a little headset and talking with zero graphics. That's how much money this sport makes. And it's a problem. It is a huge problem that we are not willing to look at in the face and try to solve. And it's our fault. It's nobody else's fault. We expect ESPN to do all these things for us, when in reality, ESPN is doing us a favor for streaming any meet at all. We're like, why aren't we on ESPN2? Because we don't make enough money. We're not valuable enough. Why aren't we on ESPN? Because we don't make enough money. We are not valuable enough. Well, why? Because we're not. As we are right now, people are not interested. They are not following along. We can't even retain our own athletes when they graduate. When they graduate, they want to get away from the sport. They don't want to watch it. One of the things that I love the most about what I do is when I get a DM from a kid that starts a YouTube channel or somebody that is 45 years old and has pulled completely away from the sport and says, you brought me back into this thing. I'm excited about watching swimming again. That's awesome. Great. Those people aren't gone. We can bring them back, but we have to be willing to take risks and try anything, anything at all. You can sit around and complain, and you can complain all you want about the lack of opportunities that we have, but only if you have exhausted all resources and opportunities to make that current reality shift. And we don't do that. That's the thing that pisses me off, is we are not willing to take those risks, but we are willing to complain. And I've been that person that's complained, but after years of complaining and now having a little bit of momentum, I'm like, I think it's time to stop complaining and start doing. And hopefully we can put together a community that's loud enough that says we want change, and we get people that are, people are like, are you excited about the Olympics? I'm like, I'm excited about 2028. Sure, things are going to be exciting this year, but I'm thinking about 2028 and what I could possibly do there. I'm putting together a 5-year plan because a couple of years ago, I didn't even have a 1-month plan with this swimming stuff. I put together a 1-month plan and people were like, what's going on over there? I put together a 3-month plan and it started to pay off, and people are like, you're changing the world. I'm like, you can relax a little bit. Awesome. But yeah, I think we complain a lot, and I understand, because there are so many great things about this sport and this community. So many great things, but there are an equal amount, if not more, things that we do that just hurts us so badly. And we're just stuck. We're just stuck in this way of thinking. I want people to dream outside of the pool. And if other people dream outside of the pool, don't shut them up. Let them go out there and make a mistake, because then other people can learn from it.
Yeah.
I could go on. I could go on and on.
No, that's awesome.
I'll pull back a little bit.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, you can feel the passion, you can see the vision, and like, it's becoming more and more clear to you as time goes on what avenues you can take, what type of impact you can truly have. And, you talked about stop complaining and start doing, and you didn't just start doing that. You've been doing that for a decade. And like you said, that's how people, you've been working really hard for a long time, and now people are starting to see the fruits of your labor. And but it does inspire and encourage other people to do the same thing. And there's just so few people doing anything like what you're doing and willing to take those risks. And I see, to be honest, I see you and I see Brett Hawk like doing like media content for swimming in a real genuine way that like gets an up close look at swim and is just bringing a new perspective to the sport. And just someone who is passionate about what they do and wants to move the sport forward. Like it's a rare thing. And when you're in the media, honestly, what you said, when you're doing anything in the sport of swimming that ruffles feathers, people don't like it. People don't like change in general. And I remember I want to ask you about this next, if you're okay with it, kind of on the topic of haters, because I mean, that's something that even we've seen. It's like, hey, we're like providing good content for dryland, for nutrition, for sports psychology, for character development and coaches education, all these different things. But we will still get, without fail, all the time, I'll get DMs that people wouldn't believe. You know, even a recent, I won't ever name names or call anyone out or anything like that, but we got a message from a coach who was like just so mad about a piece of education that we put out because it went against the way they had always done things, and just started slandering us. Like, it was just like, oh, this is just like clickbait that, you know, I hope that, you know, you're happy about the stuff you're putting out there and blah, 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 blah. I was like, sir, this is education. Like, if it goes against your philosophy that you believe or makes you feel insecure, I'm sorry. Like, but to respond like that to someone trying to move the sport forward is crazy to me. And it's like, you don't have to follow us either. Like, you don't have to listen to anything that we say, but you're going to be the type of coach who's always stuck where you are and never moving your team forward because you're like, oh, this is the way we've always done things. Like, don't. And so for us, it's like, we have so many amazing coaches that we have the privilege of working with who are so open-minded and are like, you know what? We are swimming experts and we signed up to be swim coaches. We could do dry land, but having people who are experts in dry land and nutrition and sports psych and all these different things that we do to serve our athletes, we're like, that's how we're going to go the furthest forward as a team. And so we're super blessed with some of the most amazing coaches. But then there are those people out there who we don't want to work with, who are very close-minded and really love to talk and like complaining and talking and slandering and all those things are so easy to do. And this is what I always tell kids. If you want to be successful in the swimming world, you're going to experience the same thing. Athletes who reach the highest level, you're going to see the comments on whatever platform they're posted on that say horrible things about them because people get really insecure when they see others doing great things because they're like, well, I'm not achieving that. And so instead of just being happy for somebody else, they got to drag you down because it's the only thing, the next thing that makes them feel better because they're never actually going to take action or be willing to grow. So we see that even in the dry land space. I'm wondering in the media space, I wouldn't want to be in the media space because even our social media is crazy enough for me. I'm like, being in the media space and putting opinions out there that you have to move the sport forward and really, I mean, like, then you're really open to the public. And so I have a lot of respect for people who are doing that because I know there's a lot mentally that you have to take on. So I'm wondering, how have you seen a lot of hate? How do you deal with the haters? What have you done mentally? And what advice would you give to someone who is trying to start doing something that ruffles feathers and wants to be in the media world, but it's like, dang, there's a lot of people out there who love to drag you down and they're not there until you're seeing success, right? Like when you're like, oh, that's cute. Like you're doing something that like, yeah, good luck, go get them, go get them. But then all of a sudden you start to see some success and this like insecurity just rages inside of them that they can't be happy and they have to like criticize you. So anyway, I don't know. It's very interesting to me. I'm wondering what your experience has been on that side of things.
I think people would be simultaneously shocked and not surprised at how much hate I actually get. I mean, I get a lot of positivity from the community, a lot, especially recently because I think I tell my girlfriend this a lot. I think one of my like little things that I thought all the way throughout this was at some point, I just want to get to the point where people in this sport realize that I'm a little bit inevitable, right? To the point where you've made a big enough impact that you got to choose one side or the other. A lot of people are going to flip towards, okay, this could be kind of cool. And if it was gone, I'd be a little bit sad. So, maybe I'll pull back a little bit, but man, I get a lot of hate, pretty much anything I put out. And the most interesting part is seeing people that I know publicly, like, I don't know, talk mess. We'll say that. And that's the weirdest one. People without profile pictures and stuff, it took a while for me to figure out how to deal with that because, people get personal, man. They'll get real personal, especially when they don't get a reaction. They'll keep coming back. They'll keep trying to break you down. And we have these ridiculous high expectations of perfection in swimming media. Ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. There are people out there that will expect you to never have a typo, to never flip someone's name wrong. When we're covering a sport that is from every single tiny piece of this country with different naming conventions, with different spellings and pronunciations. Luckily, there are a ton of people like on YouTube now where I'm doing a lot of vocal pronunciation. Will say, hey, I love this video. By the way, this name is pronounced this way. Love that. Probably still going to mess it up in the future because guess what? If you went to any other country and asked them to pronounce my name, they would say it wrong. And I wouldn't care. I would be like, hey, you know what? I appreciate you for trying. Yeah. For some reason, we have these ridiculous expectations in swimming of media. And I think it hinders people from trying to pursue a career in media because we have these ESPN, CBS, NBC expectation of media when we don't have any of that budget. We don't have any of that budget. We have none of that reach. We have none of that potential. We have to build it ourselves.
Yep.
All of it. Because all of the big rights in swimming, for people that don't understand the right space, are scooped up by the big players. The reason that we don't have real consistent catalog structural changes going on in the sport is because these big players have scooped things up, and it's nobody's fault. I still think it's our fault. We have to figure out how to build something outside of the Olympics, Olympic trials, world championships, and the stuff that World Aquatics and USA Swimming put on. And I think they do a good job. And I was a hater for a long time. I was, on that side of the coin for a while where I said, they need to be doing more. Why? They're a governing body. They're both governing bodies. Look at the governing bodies in other sports. What are they doing? Governing. They're keeping the sport alive. They're testifying in front of Congress when things go bad. That's what they're doing. We don't have a PGA Tour. We don't have any of these things that can supplement our governing body. We put a ton of pressure on them. And so, we just have these expectations of media, especially of USA Swimming, to put on these incredible, amazing things and, put on beautiful live streams all the time with incredible commentary and all of these bells and whistles and stuff when we don't support the sport enough to even deserve that. We really don't. I think we are starting to shift, thank God, towards supporting the sport enough to actually start to have some of those cries that we have for consistent quality live streaming and consistent quality events being put on start to have a little bit more validity. But right now it is just still a lot of pummeling and punching of people who expect a $1 billion production for a sport that makes $1,000 off an event. And so, dealing with the haters, I would love to say it's like I can just sit here and be like, just ignore them. Pretend like they don't know you. But in reality, when someone says something about you that is just a little bit more personal, even if they don't have a profile picture and don't have a name, it's gonna hurt. You gotta learn how to deal with that. And I'm at the point right now where I could literally, and I'm excited to be able to say, I'm gonna turn this light down a little bit, it's blowing out the left side of my face. I can't record this time of the day because this window gets so bright.
You got good lighting,
I'm working on it.
It's good.
So it's gonna hurt. It's absolutely gonna hurt. But somehow, I guess, just due to exposure therapy, I've gotten to the point now where I can actually say I don't care. I don't care. And one of the things that I do, one of the resources that I have, is kind of a fun little tidbit, is if I feel like I'm getting like lit up and maybe this isn't right, maybe I'm not doing something that's good for the sport, I don't go read the nice messages that I get from people, because Those are great. Pat myself on the back. I'm glad that people love the stuff that I do. If I wasn't getting those, then I would have a serious like conversation that I would need to have with myself in the mirror. I go to Pat McAfee's content and I read his comments. People light him up, and that dude signed a $100 million contract on a show that is wildly successful and wildly entertaining. That dude's still 80-20. 80% of the people absolutely love him. 40% of those people will talk about it. 20% hate him, and all 20% are going to talk about it.
Yep.
Your haters are always going to be louder than the people that want to support you when they want to be.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, as that graph starts to turn up towards success, going to get louder. They're going to come out more. Yeah. I mean, it might look like all my comments are happy, but the DMs are a whole different space when people feel like they have that privacy and, you know, there's no backlash because they have a profile picture that isn't them and you can't trace it back to them. They'll say whatever they want.
Yeah, man.
And yeah,
it's crazy.
It's rough. Yeah.
The boldness that people are willing to take on social media, they would never say face to face or have the guts to have a real like the thing is, and I've always said this to people, like if anybody ever has a problem with me, you can come right to me and I'll have a conversation with it. Like I'm completely aware that I am a imperfect human who has room to grow and can learn from anybody walking this planet. So if you want to have a productive discussion and tell me something you think I can do better or something you didn't like that I did, I'm happy to actually the people who have those conversations with me, I know they care about me. And I have those conversations with others. And but people who get behind a computer and get behind whether it's a fake name or a real name, but they have there's no face to face. It just gives them a certain level of confidence that they don't actually have. And it's just crazy. And I think, and maybe nowadays, like I've been telling all of our athletes, like if you want to be successful, like you've always had to train your mind. But I think even more so now, the mental health side of things and having mental skills to deal with this landscape that we have where everything is public. You're just going to, even as kids, you're going to deal with crazy amounts of hate when you're trying to be successful. And that's sad, but that's the way that it is. So we need to prepare our athletes to be successful in the world that we're living in. And so a big part of it is realizing whose opinion is worth taking to heart and whose isn't. And
we take all of them to heart right now. And that's actually, it's funny you bring that up because I would say the most successful like series that I've come out with is my Swim Cloud roasts that have just like started coming out. I'm on number 4 is probably coming up soon. The reason that I came up with that idea is I realized how affiliated we are with our times and how much we hold them close to ourselves. And that is our identity. And I was like, what if I just like made fun of people's most important thing that they hold close to them publicly? And I was shocked at how many people were willing to throw themselves into the fire and know that they are not a D1 caliber athlete and just get lit up. And then also DM me afterwards and go, that was hilarious.
That's
and
awesome.
Have other people look at that and go, wow, like those people commented on the video and like laughed at the fact that Kyle made fun of their breaststroke split and their best time ever in the 200 IM. We are so tied into, and it's because we don't make money. I will fight this to the grave. It's because the only thing that we can have value in swimming is our times and our medals and the place that we got, because there's no monetary value in any of that right now, unless you are Caleb Dressel, unless you are Leon Marchand, unless you're Katie Ledecky, unless you're, one of these huge personalities. All we have to take with us is our times. And that is such a bad thing for athletes mentally to have to leave the sport. And then all of a sudden, when you quit swimming, you got to figure out how to work out. You got to figure out how to eat right. And also all of those times that are swimming or sitting in Swim Cloud, unless you swim again, like weird people that decide to come back to the sport for fun. You absolutely should. Unless you swim again, those times are finite. They're done. Now these things that at the end of every season, you were like, I'm going to make this one faster. I can do this. I set my plan 410, 400 IM, 27, 30, 32, 32, 37. All that's done. Now that is your end reality. And that is a ridiculous weight to put on someone's brain, especially when you stop, you have no finances either. All of that time that you spent in this sport that we love saying is we don't do it for the money. We do it for the journey, for trusting the process, for, the community. Like, yeah, cool, great. But also every other sport is trying to make money. How about we do it too? Because that'd be a really fun thing to be able to do. And we wouldn't have to complain about live streams anymore. We could say, we deserve this live stream for real because we're doing this, make it happen. And then it will happen. So
yeah, man.
I think the mental health side of things is probably a conversation we could have for a full hour.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And being able to monetize something you're passionate about is like the dream, like to be able to do something you love and make money doing it so you can have a living. Like that's
the reward system in the brain. It's how it is literally biological. It's crazy how poorly set up our sport is biologically. We have a reward system in the brain that says, I need to do this. And when it's done, good. Food. Do this, got money, got food, do this, got money, got water, do this, got money, got shelter. We do all of this good and then convince ourselves that it was for the good of the people. And then we go get another job and then we look back and pretend like we were really happy about our career. Wild. And especially because there's not a lot of opportunities out there. So you look at this sport and you don't quite get to the top, right? If you look at NBA basketball, you get injured or you play D1, but you don't get drafted. At least you had that option, right? It's like, people say like, oh, I could have gone to the league. We can't even say that.
Yep. There is no.
Could have gone to the Olympics. Like, oh, okay. It's a similar concept, but it's such a small group. And we have these incredible athletes that are NBA and NFL caliber athletes to their core. I believe that 100%. 100% believe that a Caleb Dressel could be a professional athlete in many other sports. We have that caliber of athlete, but we don't have 500 to 600 of them making really, really good money.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I could have the money conversation about swimming for a long time. And, I would love to make money too. It'd be awesome. I would love to have the 10 years of work that I put into this sport turn into a contract that if it's big enough, I will absolutely ask whoever signs that check to write it over to me if I can put it out publicly. I would love, not because I just want a cool house and a cool boat and a cool car. I would love all of those things. Bottom line, put that out there. I said it. But I would love more than anything to get to have an article come out that says Kyle Sockwell signed a 7-figure contract in swimming, and he is a 350 in the 400 IM and never broke 22 seconds in the freestyle. Good. Yep. I think that would be the best thing that has happened to this sport for someone that is not good at it to make a huge payday, completely disassociated from anything happening on the pool deck. That's not awesome. That I don't want to be on a pool deck, but I think that component is the biggest growth opportunity in the sport in so many different ways. And the thing is that saying that, guarantee you is going to piss some people off. And good. I hope they're mad.
But that's the thing. And that's what I notice about anybody who is successful at anything that they're passionate about is that they are willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. They're willing to take heat other people aren't willing to take. And if you're not making some people mad, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Like if nobody is mad at you for the things that you're doing, you're probably not making that big of an impact. Like if everybody's just patting you on the back and saying, good job, and everything's easy, more than likely it's not that groundbreaking of a thing. So just know, one, that's all, like definitely having people and anybody listening, if you're trying to make a change out there, and you have haters, means you're on the right path. I'm telling you, you're on the right path. Keep going. Because that would be so awesome to start seeing like big contracts coming out for people moving the sport forward, which then provides more opportunities for other people in the sport. And it makes it just a legitimate career option and a passion that work together. How many people leave the sport who absolutely loved it, but they just got burned out because they couldn't support their family or they couldn't balance work and family life because of the expectations placed on like a college coach, for example. It's ridiculous to have to like have a college coach who has to coach the team and do the actual swim programming, travel around the world and recruit. That should be its own full-time job has to do the social media. That should be its own full-time job. Has to figure out how to plan the dry land and organize the nutrition and how to help people with their setup with their schoolwork and all these different things that, like, man, coaches aren't superheroes. Like, they are humans too. And if we want to burn everybody out, then yeah, let's keep doing it the way we're doing it. If we want to advance the sport to crazy heights that we've never seen before, like, let's do this thing together, man. Like, let's think differently. Let's ruffle some feathers, but in a way that's going to move the sport forward. Not because we're trying to. It's just like, we want to do what's positive for the sport, and you're always going to ruffle feathers when you do that. So I love it. Last question I have for you. I know, and maybe we'll have to do another one of these. I didn't realize how much time had gone by already. I appreciate your time being on here, by the way.
Of course. Hey, things are starting to look good enough to the point where I can, dedicate a lot more time to this. So I'd be happy to do multiple. Hopefully my whole day at some point in time is doing different swimming podcasts.
That'd be awesome.
That's the thing. Going back to what I just said, the reason I would want to put that contract figure out there, if it was big enough, is to show somebody that is thinking about quitting what they're doing because it's not reaping those rewards quite yet, that it is possible, that our sport is capable of generating a personality that can make money that is beyond just paying for a house. We want the thing with the NBA and the MLB and the NFL. You have this golden thing, the shiny golden diamond studded object of a Tom Brady making a ridiculous amount of money, way too much money for somebody throwing a football. I agree with everybody that thinks that and says that, but he is paid that for a reason. He's paid that so that you have this community of kids that look at Tom Brady and his ability to do all these crazy things and donate to charities and, all of this stuff. Sure, they do great things with their money, but also if Tom Brady, his car doesn't start in the morning, he could call Mercedes and they would drive him a brand new car and he wouldn't even think about it. That's cool. If you say it's not, you're lying to yourself and you need to just stop. It is cool. And so having that golden shiny object of, wow, that could be a reality. And the fact that there are a ton of other people doing this too, and that you get these cool things that come with it. For some reason, we like to pretend in swimming that can't be a thing. No flexing, no big shiny objects, no cool cars, no, nice watches, be nice and easy, be nice and calm. Like I'm over it. I hope that the positive change that I make in this sport by the time that I'm 80 results in somebody pulling up to Olympic trials in one of their 3 Ferraris and having to choose which Rolex they want to wear on each of their wrists when they walk out behind the blocks, because some kid's going to watch that and it's going to motivate him to go swim because he can have this cool reality and then inspire the next generation. That's kind of a random tangent, but inspiring that, like, that person that is thinking, am I going to do this for the next 10 years and not make any money? And then what if, and the thing that holds me back more than anything is that no one's done this. I don't have the blueprint. I don't know what the ceiling is. That's the scariest thing that comes from this, is I have no idea what the ceiling is. I get excited about it because maybe the ceiling is a lot bigger than people think. And I'm starting to think that is the case. Maybe the ceiling is way bigger. Maybe our community is yearning for this thing and they're going to latch onto it and it's going to grow and explode. And I'm going to get to be the guy that did it. Sure. 10 years of $0 is not fun, especially when you don't see the end goal. It is foggy. It is super foggy out there. And, I'm hoping to just lift that fog and, get people to the point where they can see that end goal. And now they just got to figure out how to get there. Right now, we don't have one at all. So,
I don't know if you saw, as an encouragement to you as well with that, I was watching some of the NBA All-Star festival. I don't know the exact date that this podcast will come out, so I don't want to say exactly how long ago it was, but recently I was watching the NBA All-Star game and festivities, and they did this piece on how, I think it was in the 60s, the NBA players and ABA players, they were about to boycott the All-Star game because they couldn't even make a living. Most of the NBA players had another job, and it was like swimming where, okay, we're the best of the best. Like these were the best in the world of the All-Star game playing in front of all these fans. And, the people that were making all the money were the owners of the organizations, but the players weren't. And so they had a decision to make, and they just wanted a pension. Like they just wanted to be taken care of and like make sure that their families were safe and secure. And so they were going to boycott. And lo and behold, the owners decided like 15 minutes before the game, okay, we're going to give you guys the pension plan. And they were so happy.
Yeah, it's
That
such
was
a good story.
It was in the 60s.
Yeah.
And now we're, it's not that long ago. That was 60 years ago. And now you got people signing $500 million contracts. And it's like, so I feel like maybe swimming could be the NBA in the 60s where like, some of the best athletes in the world are just not getting what they deserve for all the work that they're putting in and not maximizing their potential. So as an encouragement, all these other like massive golden ticket sports, they weren't always like they were either. And it's inspiring to me to hear you speak after just having watched a mini documentary essentially on that. And I just think it's cool. But
and it's this will be my last thing. For anybody out there that thinks that swimming does deserve this or deserve that, I want you to think back to the last big structural change that swimming has had. Try to come up with it, and it will pale in comparison to anything that any of the big sports have done in the last year. I guarantee you'll have to go back to the point where we invented a new stroke. Mixed medley relays doesn't count. They're cool. I think they are kind of cool. I'm starting to come around to them. Mixed medley relays don't count. Mystery IM doesn't count. Adding the 800 for men and the 1500 for women is just something that should have happened a long time ago. And it made no sense that we had them swimming different distances. It's crazy to think about. But try to think back to the last structural change that we've had. Try to come up with it, and then go look at the fact that the college football playoff hasn't really existed that long, and the fact that they're changing it from this system and this amount of teams to this, and now they're making ridiculous amounts of money. They've got this cool bracket style situation, and swimming is doing the exact same thing that we've always done and just trying to add in an extra event and hope that works. And obviously, I know that it is a lot more complex than just saying, hey, we're going to do it this way instead. It's expensive, but also we are an expensive sport, spending a lot of money on a lot of things that we shouldn't be. Maybe we try to do something that could have an exponential positive return. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least we tried, because the trying side of things, people don't understand what kind of media fire that would start. If we tried something radical, all of a sudden, all of these media entities have something to talk about. We can talk about it for the next 6 months, right? We talk about the Olympics when the Olympics ends all the way until the Olympics next time. Imagine if we had something else that we could try. So I think there's a brighter future ahead that's possible. Whether or not we will get there is something that we will have to wait and find out about.
Maybe just throwing this out there, maybe one of those ideas of spending swimming money could go towards possibly bringing in like a Kevin Durant versus Caleb Dressel, and just do something like that we get all kinds of media around. He used to swim, and just there's so many creative things that could happen. And obviously, like you said, structural changes. But you're right, for a sport that is all about going fast, we certainly are slow to make changes, and that's wild to me. And but last thing I wanted to ask you, do you have, because I know you're a ASU alum, you have any shout outs you want for Arizona State before we pop off here?
Ooh, I would just want to shout out the team in general right now. When I was there, it was one of the most confusing things I've ever seen in my life. I walked around that campus and looked around at what I had and could not put together any sort of explanation for why that team, with the facilities we have, with the campus we have, the opportunities that we have academically, believe it or not, I know like Family Guy and The Simpsons make fun of Arizona State. Arizona State has a plethora of opportunities for people that want to be high achievers. Did I take advantage of any of them? Not particularly. But at the same time, it's so top to bottom. You can get whatever you want there. You have the palm trees, you have the weather, you have Mona Plummer, you have now Bob Bowman, you have, Herbie Bem, you have all of these opportunities. I sat there and I looked around and I was like, this doesn't make sense. Bob got hired. I kept swimming. I saw a recruiting class come in. I think that's one of the things that helped me step away from the sport was the fact that I looked back and was like, I think it's going to happen. To look at this team now and see that they're potentially favored on the men's side and ranked on the women's side to win an NCAA championship is one of the most satisfying things I have ever seen in my life. I don't want to take a single gram of credit for it, but I do want, if the team is listening or anyone on the team listening, to know that what is happening right now is the product of this reality that we faced that didn't make sense. And now you are a part of proving that that reality was possible. And that is so sick. And yeah, awesome, just, man. I mean, if this comes out after March has happened, even if they do not win, I think it is still, and based on like what they did last season, even the season before that, it is just so fun as an alumni that was in the trenches back then and didn't understand why this team could not be top 10 to look back and see the momentum that this team has. Hats off to Herbie, hats off to Bob, hats off to all of the people that swim at ASU right now and will in the future and have in the past. I mean, it's just so cool. That team's so fun to watch. They swim fast so often. It just looks like, God, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I would commit to ASU every single year. I would recommit, probably for less money every year.
That's amazing, man. Well, I appreciate you so much coming on here and sharing your story and your passion. Thank you for everything you're doing for the swimming world right now. The vision you have. Can't wait to see what direction it goes. Is there a way people can reach out to you, follow you? Obviously, you have different platforms. Any specific things you want to share real quick?
That's really it. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm posting content every day until after the Olympics. YouTube, hopefully starting to post more often. We've been posting more often, but hopefully, even more often. So yeah, YouTube and Instagram. As a guy that started on Twitter, I'm going to leave Twitter off just because a lot of my focus is on video content, and it's just where most of the fun is happening for me right now. So I'm leaning into that. So yeah, YouTube and Instagram, just Kyle Sockwell. It should pop up, luckily, these days.
Awesome. Check him out, Kyle Sockwell, YouTube and Instagram. Thanks so much, Kyle. We appreciate you, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Got it. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch a new episode each Monday. You can also check us out on social media at SwimStrong Dryland. If you would like to join the SwimStrong family, visit our website at SwimStrongDryland.com.